Okay, well, I think we'd like to go ahead and convene the symposium today. So first of all, let me say welcome to the first annual NNCI Nano-enabled Internet of Things Research Community Symposium. My name is Mark Allen, and on behalf of all of the National Nanotechnology Coordinated Infrastructure site directors that are here today that you will be hearing from over the day. Let me welcome you and thank you for your interest in this exciting and emerging area. So before we move on to the technical piece, I've got a few introductory and housekeeping slides that I'd like to go through. So first of all, let me tell you what NNCI research community is. First of all, what is the NNCI, or the National Nanotechnology Coordinated Infrastructure Program? This is a program sponsored by the National Science Foundation to support 16 nanotechnology sites across the nation, geographically distributed, to allow people who may not have access to nanotechnology fabrication and characterization equipment and expertise to come in, learn how to use these facilities and use them to do their research. And this might be, in addition to people from, of course, the hosting universities at these sites, people from other local universities, it might be people from large industry, it might be people from smaller industry, it might be colleges doing educational programs. So there's a wide variety of users of these facilities. But the point is that we are trying to make these facilities available to the broader researchers so that they can pursue what they need to get done in the nanotechnology space. So what are research communities then? So the idea behind the research community is to gather experts around a certain topic of interest and try to understand what's going on at the various sites within that topic of interest. And the goals are really to advance collaboration within that topic, to position our sites to better accommodate emerging needs. So we have a number of possible future-looking activities here, and this allows us to get a little early warning of what researchers are thinking so that we can better understand future trends and perhaps help to guide future investment either at our own sites or by funding agencies in these areas. Now, we have multiple research communities throughout the NNCI network, and there's many ways that research communities can self-organize. What we have chosen to do is to hold or participate in annual day-long symposia that will rotate around the research community sites. And the basic goal is to summarize, inform, and exchange the work of NNCI users, but also to bring in new ideas through invited speakers. So with that sort of as a broad overview of what is NNCI and what is a research community, let's talk about our research community, the nano-enabled Internet of Things. So it's our conjecture, this is, remains to be seen, but it's our conjecture that many of the devices and applications for the Internet of Things will be enabled by nanotechnology. So that's why we have a lot of interest in this. The things in the Internet of Things might be small-scale structures, sensors, actuators, micro-electromechanical systems, things like that. The things in the Internet of Things may need to process and collect data, so there's a need for thinking about onboard electronics, high degrees of integration and co-location of functionality. And also the things in the Internet of Things will need to communicate with the internet. So that means thinking about communication protocols in multiple bands, exploiting a diversity of modalities. And so the obvious one is RF communication, right? But there are many others. There's optical communication, there's ultrasound, there's passive approaches. So I think looking at all of these different modes will be of importance to us. In terms of our research community vision, our vision is that this ubiquitous sensing potential that nano-enabled Internet of Things can do will be at least these four things, right? provide the input necessary for data mining or big data processing to understand complex system behavior. So there's a lot of work and a lot of interest in trying to understand complex systems. But of course, in order to do that, you need distributed data. And so Nano IoT can provide that. Nano IoT can augment the interaction environment in future workplaces, a workplace that talks back to you, tells you what to do, gives you guidance, because we have distributed sensing available to us in order to understand where you are, what the workplace is doing, what state the workplace is in, and so on. Nano IoT can be the transducers that can monitor living things from agriculture to medicine. Right, so we're going to hear shortly about one application, Internet of Things for precision agriculture, as well as several other applications of IoT to agriculture, which will be very exciting. And we can also think about applying the same thing to our bodies, from wearables to implants, and gathering information that way. And then finally, we see this as a research area that can really catalyze within nanotechnology the convergence of researchers from many intellectual backgrounds because of its breadth. We think also that this area is well aligned with NSF's big ideas, such as the future of work, growing convergence research, understanding the rules of life, and harnessing the data revolution. So I think this is going to be one of the most exciting research areas, or research communities, excuse me, within the NNCI. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of this work that's going on at the other sites, learning from you, and hopefully being able to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, and also getting some outside perspectives that might be able to stimulate some thought in this area. So with that, let me introduce the program. We are going to have 4 speakers from outside the NNCI. The first will be Professor Sherry Kagan, who's director of the Internet of Things for Agriculture, NSF Engineering Research Center. Caden Stanzione, CEO of Logistic Works. Impact of autonomy on transformative transportation and logistics, another area where we need to know where everything is all the time. Obviously a great research area for, or great application area for IoT or Nano IoT. Michael Santiago from Floripulse, getting some interesting possibilities of putting Nano IoT within or immediately adjacent to living things to help us with precision agriculture. And then Richard O'Brien, president of Sempercon, enabling the Internet of Things infrastructure. So I think this will be really exciting. And then in addition to that, we're going to have speakers from the sites of our NNCI research community members. So remember I mentioned there are 16 NNCI sites. So these 5, including myself, will be talking a little bit about some of the different work that users are doing, selected highlights, within this Nano IoT space, so we can learn about the breadth of this new area. So just a couple of things then, mechanics before we get started. So there is Q&A time that's scheduled after each talk. So we've asked all the speakers to leave a little bit of time in their time slot for Q&A. You can submit questions for each speaker in the chat window. So please feel free to do that. We will try to save the questions until the end because it is disruptive to try to answer questions in real time unless the speakers feel very strongly that they want to do that. We'll let the speakers get through their presentations and then we'll take answers or questions from the chat. We'll have people here at Penn organize this and sort of MC the questions so that we can try to keep things more or less orderly. And then if there's time or if there are no questions or we've answered all the questions in the chat, you can also raise your hand and say, yes, you know, I have an additional question, and then Pat will coordinate those questions. And in terms of the schedule, so we're going to start off with a talk by Professor Kagan on the Internet of Things for Precision Agriculture at 9:45, and then we will go through all of our invited, or 3 of our invited speakers. We'll have a short break, and then we will go through our fourth invited speaker's talk, two of the presentations from two of the sites. We'll take a lunch break, and then we'll reconvene for the last three sites to see what's going on at those sites, and then we'll go through some concluding remarks about what we've learned and next steps and what our research community might do going forward.